Hey, party people. Welcome back to the design process series. Today, we're going to go over fabric. I'm going to give you guys some background on fabrics to get you started in understanding just the crazy wide world of 1 million billion fabric options. And then I'm going to talk about how to approach your project, your design project, in terms of selecting fabrics. First of all, why am I making the fabric video now? Like, don't you have to design some stuff so that you can figure out what fabric to use? No. When you're a designer, fabric is your medium. It really is, because that is the stuff you make clothes out of. And it's really important that any artist and designer really understand their medium before they can effectively use it in their work. And number two, it really helps to build a cohesive collection when you have one set of fabrics to work with throughout the collection. Like, you'll see shows where they use the fabric over and over and over again, but in new ways with each garment, right? Okay, like that. Number three, it is ass backwards and all kinds of stupid expensive to draw out a bunch of sketches and later be like, I'm gonna need a crisp cotton shirting for this one, and I'm gonna need light silky sheer shirting for this one, and I'm gonna need you to stop doing that, because that's really not how the industry works. Most of the time, 99.99% of the time, you develop your concept, you think about the direction you're going in, or your boss tells you what direction the team is going for the season, and you simultaneously put color, texture, and fabrics in one go. You meet with fabric guys, you pull headers. You pull swatches, you put things together, you put together a fabric story, you order your sample yardage, and then you start designing. Okay? There will be times where, a fabric doesn't work out and you have to go replace it later. But for the most part, you start with your fabric story. Don't forget that fashion is a business and you need to have some sort of organization to make your business profitable. You need the money to keep going season after season so you can keep making cool things. There's this stereotype of the overdramatic, chaotic creative, just doing whatever willy-nilly. And you know what? I'm so over it. We need to just get rid of that stereotype, because those are really not the ones that get shit done. Okay? You don't build multi-million empires by not knowing how to get organized and get shit done. There was this interview that I read years ago when John Galliano was in the middle of his tenure at Dior. And whatever you may think about him now, this interview really spoke volumes for the kind of designer he was. And I know that a lot of other designers can relate to this. And I don't know if you know or can remember. I know some of you are very young. I just learned the other day that I have subscribers who are 13 years old, and I'm like, but John Galliano, when he was at Dior, he was known for his completely extravagant productions on the runway. Fantastical costumes, like the things that he was showing on the runway were really editorial, nothing in the realm of wearable, commercial, or whatever. And sure, yeah, he created the wearable stuff in the background. He put it in the stores, and he put the accessories in the stores, the stuff that would sell. But on the runways, they were just complete, fantastical, insane, wonderful things. And then he would come out in some crazy costume. Remember that one runway show where he was in head-to-toe astronaut suit, the helmet? Okay. But in this interview, he was talking about how he understands and thinks about all the time how he is responsible for 5,000 jobs. He said, you have to design with that in mind, always, that all these jobs are depending on how well you do your job. And I'm not trying to put this crazy amount of pressure on you, okay? But it exists, and you do have to think about, you know, you need to not just be thinking about your own creative sensibilities, okay? But marrying your creative sensibilities with a sense of order, with putting together good product that sells, product that appeals to people other than just you. So back to the process, okay? You meet with fabric guys and you get headers. What is a header? A header is a card like this. They come in different formats, of course, but they come in formats like this where you have large swatches, you know, large enough so that you're getting a feel for the fabric and you can kind of see the basic repeat of the pattern. The information for the fabric is found along the top, you know, fiber content, article number, price. So you get these headers. Sometimes you can get some like bigger, like half-yard swatches to play with. And then you order your sample yardage. You hold on to these headers as you're designing. You know, you'll pin them up and always be looking at your fabrics as you're designing. On the topic of vocabulary, we have self fabric, S-E-L-F. Self fabric is the main fabric on the outside of the garment. This is also called your shell or shell fabric. Linings are, of course, the stuff that's lines your garment on the inside. Contrast is a fabric that is also used on the outside of your garment, but is used in less quantities than your self fabric. And you have only one self, you know, your main outside fabric, but you can have, you know, 4, 5, 7 contrasts if you feel like it. Now, there's a big difference in selecting fabrics for a design project, for school, for your portfolio, versus putting together a fabric story in the real world. Since most of you are students or want to be students or are putting books together, or even just illustrators who just want to know more about fabrics and things like that, I'm going to focus on kind of that kind of fabric story building as opposed to, you know, real life concerns. Okay? Real life concerns in the industry involve picking fabrics that fit within your price point, figuring out order minimums, figuring out turnaround time, you know, figuring out widths of fabrics and making markers. This is the thing I hate the most about being a working designer, is figuring out care labels, you know, doing wash tests on different fabrics to figure out what you put on your label. You know, tumble dry low and cold wash inside out, dry clean only. Wow, that's the worst. Oh my God, I hate it so hard. Blah. In the real world, you have to think about those things. And if you guys are interested in more of the technical aspects of, you know, tech packs and fabrics and, you know, all those production concerns, drop me a comment and I'll start planning a video like that. But right now, let's just talk about, you know, understanding different fabrics, fabric categories, the construction of fabrics, and how to put some things together. Number one, I always start with the season. Okay, it does not matter what kind of amazing, beautiful story, fabric story you put together if it is completely inadequate for the season you're designing. I mean, I would hold on to all the swatches, take photographs of them put together so I have set aside, you know, a beautiful fabric story for a rainy day, but you can't use it. Okay. I know sometimes like design teachers in school will be like, oh, you know, you're supposed to design for spring, but you put together this amazing, beautiful fall winter story, so let's just switch seasons. And, you know, I know you guys think I'm a nice person on these videos, but I'm not. You know, you guys leave me these comments like, oh, Zoe, I want to take your class. You don't, because I'm really strict. And if you're supposed to be designing for spring and you put together a beautiful fall fabric story, I will tell you that you can't use it, okay? Because people don't wear thick-ass cow nubuck and a fluffy chinchilla in the middle of May, unless you're on the other side of the equator. No, I will tell you, okay, you can put those away and use them for another project, but right now, let's get back to spring. Teaching in California is kind of funny because I come across a lot of students who are either from California, grew up in California, or they've lived in California long enough that they forgot what winters are like. They put together these fall winter fabric stories that are all like unlined wool gabardine and 4-ply crepe. I'm like, are you kidding? All kinds of beautiful, fashionable people live in cold weather climates like Sweden, New York, Moscow, Toronto, and they need more than your unlined Duchess satin opera coat. This is what happens when your teacher is from Alaska, okay? You live in California where you think 50 degrees, it is so freezing cold. I come from a place where it's 50 degrees and everyone gets super excited because summer is here and we're all gonna put our shorts on and go swimming in the lake. When you're putting your seasons together, think of more than just your local climate, because my guess is you want to design clothes for more than just your little circle of friends, but the world over. Okay, and the world over needs thick camel hair coats, needs leather gloves lined in fur, needs shearling collars, okay? Let's talk about weights of fabrics. Okay, you're gonna hear terms like bottom weight, top weight, shirt weight, dress weight, and that just means the category of heaviness in fabrics. Bottom weights are heavier fabrics that you use for coats, jackets, and pants, and sometimes skirts, depending on the styling of skirt. You can have bottom weights like this brushed twill, these fat, fluffy tweeds, all these beautiful coat fabrics. And this term bottom weight, it doesn't have a mathematical number. Is there a non-mathematical number? Oh my God. Moving along. It's really about the season, okay? Because a fabric thick enough to make jackets out of for spring is definitely not going to be the same as for fall or for winter or for resort, okay? So bottom weights. Top weights are, of course, lighter materials used for blouses. And this can include wovens for blouses and shirts. This can include t-shirt knits for tees. You know, these vocabulary words, they're not that hard. It's like t-shirt knits for t-shirts. What do you use t-shirt knits for? You know, shirt weights, dress weights, you know, those are kind of self-explanatory, right? And so when you're putting your fabrics together, you have to keep in mind that you're going to need some bottom weights and you're going to need some top weights. You can't have a whole collection where everything is cotton voile and silk georgette. So what is a fabric? Fabric is a combination of fiber content and construction. Cotton is not a fabric. Silk is not a fabric. Just in the way that flour is not a food. Okay, someone says, what's your favorite food? You don't say flour. You talk about cake and bread and all the amazing carbs that you can make with flour. And now I need cake. Damn it. And in that same way, you can take silk and make all kinds of amazing fabrics. Here's a fabric card from a silk person, and it has all these swatches of different things you can make out of silk. You can make silk doesn't become a fabric until you apply a certain kind of construction to it. You take the raw material and you actually do something with it. If I ask you in class, hey, what fabric is this? Don't say silk. So fibers, okay, and they come all different kinds. You have short, tiny little fluffy fibers in cotton and other cellulosic fibers. You have long filament fibers from silks and polyesters. And you take the fibers and you twist multiple fibers together to create yarns. Lay people use the term yarns to mean those fat, hot pink things that your grandmas use to knit you obnoxious sweaters that you wear at Christmas time. But yarns is also the word for the individual strands of your fabric. This is a yarn. This is very loosely woven, and so it frays like a mofo. And then yarns are woven, knit, tangled, twisted, braided, blah, 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 to create fabrics. There are four main categories for fabric construction. You have wovens. This one is a great example to look at because you can see literally how the different yarns go up and down and across. Okay, so you have all the yarns, they go along the length of your fabric, and then you have other threads that go in the cross grain, across the fabric, and they're woven up, down, up, down, up, down, until they create a fabric. And you can have really loosely woven fabrics like this. You can have beautifully tightly woven wools like this, where it's really hard to fray because everything is really jam-packed in there. You can create different surface textures in your fabric using different weaves. A common example of a beautiful twill is denim. Denim is a mostly cotton fabric that has dyed yarns going in one direction. And then you have undyed yarns going in the other direction. And that's how denim is typically lighter colored on the inside, because you're seeing more of those undyed yarns. When you look at the surface of denim, you can see the diagonals of the twill. Jacquards are another style, another category of woven fabrics where the way it's woven creates different textured patterns across the surface of the fabric. And you can have, one color textures like this, or you can have multiple colors creating, colored patterns along with the textures. There's a lot of things you could do out there with jacquards. And then we have knits. Knits are where you take all those yarns from twisted fibers and then you loop them onto each other to create fabrics. And the vast majority of knits are quite stretchy. Some are not as stretchy, like double knits, interlocks. Those are not as stretchy as ribs or jerseys. And the amount of stretch is affected by the kind of yarns that you use and how tightly your yarns are looped together. Here is just kind of a standard sweater knit. You can see, because the yarns are so fat, the stitches, these little like upside down V's they look like. And then here's a rib knit. Rib knits are recognizable because you can see the texture stripes. And these stitches come in all kinds of sizes depending on the gauge of your needle. You can also have jacquard knits. Look at this. I love this. It has this awesome like chevron bias structure. And here is a knitted jacquard using multiple colors. There's two basic categories of knit garments. You have cut and sew knits and you have fully fashioned knits. Cut and sew knits are cut and sewn. Okay, they are made like woven garments where you have, yardage of the fabric. You have your pattern pieces created to fit the body the way you want. You lay out your pattern and you cut them out and you sew them together. Fully fashioned knits are when you knit specific shapes instead. You don't cut out the shapes out of fabric, but you make a plan. You plot it out. You say, okay, I'm going to do 10 rows of 20 stitches wide. And then after that, I'm going to do another 10 rows of 25 stitches wide. And so with the rows and the stitches and your needle gauge, you're plotting out the shapes of your garments instead. And those are fully fashioned knits. The third category is hides, and that encompasses real leathers and furs. You have a lot of fake leathers and stuff, but it's different because there are things that you have to consider when designing with real leather and real fur that you don't have to think about when you deal with fakes. The number one thing about designing with leather and fur is you have to consider your source animal. And if you have a weak stomach and you're a vegan, you're pro-PETA, you don't want to deal with dead animals, you should probably skip this part of the lecture. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. Things like the hand, the texture, the stiffness, the weight, and how big your skins are all dependent on the animal that you use. So you can use a cow skin. Okay, this is a cow nubuck. This is a cow leather. Okay, these are from the sides. This is from the back. And these skins are big because cows are big. And the back skin is tougher than the skin from your sides and stomach. Lamb skins are soft, they're supple, you can get them paper thin if you need to. Like, I once made an evening gown out of lambskin that was so light that my model stepped on it with her heel and ripped a hole in it just without even stepping very hard. She was mortified. I had a brief moment of, but it was fine. We fixed it. It's fine. It's totally fine. Okay. But on the other hand, lambskins are really small, okay? Here's a complete lambskin. It's pretty small. You have to think about adding cut lines to your designs if you design with a skin from an animal this small, like goats and lambs. What are cut lines? Cut lines are style lines added to make sure that each pattern piece is small enough to fit inside a skin. You'll find a lot of the time leather pants have a cut line across the knee because pant leg patterns are so long, and you'll find that even if you could fit them on a cow skin, you don't want to because bigger pattern pieces create a lot of waste. But I mean, lambskins, they're so supple and soft and wonderful. And look at this goat suede. It's so thin and beautiful. Look at this compared to the cow nubuck and how thin it is. Pig suede, pig split is kind of in between. It's bigger than goats and lambs, smaller than cows. And the thickness and the suppleness of pig suedes are also in between that of cow and lamb. These are shearlings, and shearlings are sheepskins where it is a finished leather or suede on one side and with the hairs still attached on the other side. But yeah, hides are a whole category of like thin and thick and soft and stiff. It's like a whole category of materials all on its own with like a million different options. You know, I've been working with leather for a while now and I love it. There's just too much stuff. So look, if you guys are interested in learning more about fabrics, I can do a series of fabric videos when I'm done with doing these design process videos. The design process videos will probably finish up by the end of summer or the top of fall. And if I get enough interest, I will start putting some fabric videos together. The fourth category is nonwovens, and they're kind of a catch-all of things that are not woven, knit, or hides from animals. Okay, one example of a nonwoven is felt. Felt is literally a bunch of fibers that have been tangled. You just like lay them out and you just tangle them until they're all stuck up on themselves and they won't release. I know that made it sound really sexy, right? How many of you are so eager to design with felt right now? Sorry. Another nonwoven is clear vinyl. Clear vinyl is a huge trend right now. It's just basically sheets of plastic. And then nonwovens also include polyfill for quilting your fabrics and all kinds of interfacings. Designers, I cannot stress to you enough the importance of studying fabrics because they are our medium, and that is, you know, studying fabrics can only help you become better designers. There is no great oil painter out there in the world who doesn't really understand his paints and how they work and how they mix together and how long it takes them to dry and the kinds of textures they can create. Okay? You have to understand your medium. And so I recommend that you take all the textile science courses that you can at your school, go out and educate yourself as much as you can. I'm going to introduce to you guys just a couple of books that I have found really helpful over the years. Okay, this one is my favorite, and it is called Fabric for Fashion, the Swatch Book. There's a textbook, but this one is the swatch book, and it's divided into categories by type of fiber. So your wools and your silks, your animal fibers, cellulose fibers like linen and cotton. And in each section, they talk about fabric construction, and then they have swatches, y'all. And I love it because there's nothing like just seeing all these beautiful diagrams and actually being able to feel what is an interlock and why doesn't it stretch? Oh, it's not very stretchy at all. And jerseys and ribs and feeling and seeing, you know, pictures worth 1,000 words, just like that, okay? Actual examples are worth 1,000 pictures. So this is a fantastic book. This one I've had for a few years, and I think that the current edition has a pink cover. I could be wrong. And I got this on fashiondex.com, and I'll drop a link in the info box. Fashiondex.com is, again, they don't pay me for shit, okay? I just tell you guys things I like because I actually like them. And fashiondex.com is a terrific resource for all kinds of fashion reference books, all the way from like sewing manuals to how to grade a pattern to fabric swatch books like this. This is another book that I really like. I think I got this one on Amazon. This one is organized differently, has no swatches, but it's still really, really helpful. They're categorized by this color-coded system: structure, fluidity, ornamentation, expansion, compression. They're organized by how you use the fabric. Each fabric has a double truck of information. It has pictures of swatches, different examples. Okay, in this one on velvet, you have 2-color velvet, crushed velvet, velvet burnout. You have photos of garments on the runway made out of velvet. It has descriptions on what makes velvet velvet and pros and cons of working with velvet, their strengths and weaknesses. You know, really just chock full of information. So let's get back to our design project now that we have some background information on fabrics. Okay. What is the first thing we do whenever we get stuck on a step of the design project? We go back to our visual research. I just love this image. I don't actually know what it is. You know, I don't need to know. You know, it doesn't really help me. It's really about getting inspired by the image. And I'm thinking about glossy shears when I see this. Something that looks like honey. Maybe I'll do like a shiny, like silk gazar. Maybe I'll embroider it, okay? Maybe I want a printed silk gazar. If you remember, I was also looking at a lot of graffitied walls, and I love this kind because it's not like a graffitied mural where the images are clean and beautiful and smooth and you can see the texture of the wall underneath, but these are just like haphazard sprays. And so maybe I want something that is really loosely woven and it has a messy pattern, and maybe this is the color story I'm going with, and I'm going to seek out fuzzy materials that has this kind of misted over quality. Or maybe I'm going to take a fabric and hand paint something on it on my own. So one approach is that you can take your visual research and be inspired, you know, one for one, visual to visual. Some designers are more inspired by mood. Okay, they create a mood board that is literally about the mood they want to create with their collection. Whether it's a light, airy, sunny day mood where everyone's going on picnics and life is grand, or really like serious, sad, somber mood, you know, funeral march, that kind of thing. Okay, whatever mood you want to create. And that is a perfectly valid way of designing. You know, some people will look at images like this and just really be inspired by the feelings that it stirs, okay? Like I look at this and I just feel like just sadness and pity, just loneliness. There's a tiny bit of jealousy about how beautiful she is, which is squelched by the pity I feel because she's so sad. And you know, it's not even necessary for you to be able to put into words that the mood you're creating, because like I said, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And you're putting these images together to create a mood that is hard for you to say in words, because we're designers and not writers. And so you can pull fabrics that help convey this mood as well. You're like, Zoe, how do you do that? Do fabrics have a mood? Well, you tell me. If you're putting together a fabric story for this mood, okay, look at these pictures, okay, and you tell me, am I going on a picnic? Okay. Am I building a snowman with Anna and Elsa? Am I wearing light blue gingham and pink tulle, okay, and rolling around in a park? Or am I wearing purple and green flannel and bleached and shredded denim and shouting expletives at a sporting event? No? None of those things? Okay, those are two completely separate moods. Those are two completely different fabric stories based on different moods and circumstances and muses and customers. Okay? And so when you see this, who is your muse? Okay, I look at this and maybe I'm thinking of distressing a bunch of chambray and, khakis, safari jacket materials, and I beat it up so that everything looks really worn, nothing looks really polished and fancy and clean. I want everything to look well worn. Pieces in a closet that travel with a man who doesn't want to be in one place for a long time. Spin stories. Fashion is about stories, and you can get weird, you can get fantastical, you can just let things flow. This is where your creative genius should really thrive, okay? Not making chaotic messes in the swatch room, but creating amazing, beautiful, insane stories in your mind and then translating them into tangible objects like fabrics and fabric manipulation and textures and all those beautiful things. Some designers start their fabric story by selecting a print. There are a lot of companies out there that are heavily print driven. You have companies like Dries Van Noten and Marni. Okay, Marni's more of like a color driven. They do a lot of prints. Well, Dries Van Noten is one of my favorite print driven companies. Watch any of Dries Van Noten shows and you will always pick up amazing textiles. Diane von Furstenberg is also a great print-driven company, kind of on the opposite end of the creative spectrum, where Dries Van Noten is a little bit darker, European, more avant-garde, and Diane von Furstenberg is very pretty, very feminine, gorgeous woman wearing awesome dresses sort of thing. Some designers, they start with prints. Okay? They pull prints, and there's a lot of different ways you can work with prints in the industry. You can go get a print from your fabric guy and buy X amount of yardage. You can get it in a different fabric. You can recolor the print, or you can develop your own. Designers, the more skills that you can bring to the table that are related to designing garments, the more hireable you are. And the ability to design your own prints is pretty special and coveted. So explore developing your own prints. This is a print that I actually developed with my boss's direction. It was the first project I did at my first design job after college. Yeah, there's some rookie mistakes involved, like it's a 19 color print. It is a complete disaster in terms of how expensive it was to produce, but it was a very successful print for us, and we printed it in silk charmeuse, in stretch georgette, and chiffon. We did it in a lot of different bodies, and then because that company really was a print-driven company, we took that print and we created spin-off designs, and we pulled elements from the print and we created graphics for screen prints, for t-shirts and tanks. We pulled images and created appliques and embroideries for the backs of jackets, patches on the hips of pants, things like that. We used the heck out of that print. Okay? And I encourage you to do the same. I encourage you to develop your own prints and then take elements of the print and apply them in different ways across your collection as well. I encourage you guys to take fabrics as you see them at the fabric store and do something extra to it, to elevate it, to make it more of your own. You can beat it, add sequins, pearls, what have you. You can dye parts of it. You can hand paint it. You can bleach it. You can shred it, and you can take it apart and put it back together again. You can laser cut patterns into it, although you probably don't have any lasers sitting around. So you're probably just going to have to cut them out very carefully with scissors, with the notion of laser cutting in the future. I truly believe and have believed for a while that fiber technology and fabrics are the future of fashion. If you look at the things that have developed within the fashion industry, the things that are truly innovative, truly new, that are not a rehashing of old things, is fiber technology. Everything from when tricot was used as underwear and then it became acceptable to wear as outerwear. With the invention of spandex and this whole world of stretch fabrics opened up for us, okay? Performance fabrics, all those things where, you know, things are wicking sweat away from your bodies and keeping your crotches cool. Do you guys remember hypercolor t-shirts in the 90s? Some of you were not born in the 90s. I'm old. You know that, right? Okay. Asian don't raisin, but I'm totally old. Right now, you have all kinds of cool things like 3D printing. Like I think Adidas, one of my students told me that Adidas is scooping up plastic from the oceans and recycling them to 3D print sneakers. Like how cool is that? In the rest of the fashion world, we're rehashing silhouettes. We're doing a 70s revival. We're doing a 90s revival, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, embroideries, we come up with new designs and new ways and faster ways to create embroideries. But embroidery's been around for like hundreds and hundreds of years. But really, fabrics, development of new fabrics and fiber technology, that's the new stuff. That's the really innovative stuff that just excites me all the time. So yeah, I encourage you guys to study as much up on fabric and fiber technology as possible. Even if you're not like a futuristic, activewear, performance fiber oriented company, it can only help you to learn more about fabrics. It can only help any artist or designer to learn more about the medium that they're going to be working with all the time. Okay? So go study. Go look things up. Go to the library. Remember libraries? They're that place who likes you more than they like your wallet. And go look at books and read them and feel swatches. Go visit fabric stores. Pay attention to the fiber content. They have the signs up everywhere and feel them. See them hang. See how heavy they are. Okay? And understanding fabrics will help you illustrate them better and will help you design with them better. All right? And that's it for today. I'm sure that was plenty of information for you to digest for 1 week. And the next design process video will be all about shapes and silhouettes and getting started designing actual garments. All right? So until then, be good. Go study. I will see you next time.